Today is day 149, and I'm talking about the practical considerations of saying grace. Now, I know what you're thinking. Don't worry. This is not a religious conversation. In fact, I'm just purely pointing this out from an observation I had yesterday, a very practical consideration. So, I've realized as I've gotten older that how much impact eating has on your life. I mean, it had an impact when I was younger, I had no doubt, but it just wasn't as noticeable. But as you get older and your youthful energy depletes a little bit, what you eat really does impact you. And so I think I think we all know it, but we underestimate it in our minds just what an impact it is. I mean, I can go throughout my life and I can think of all my ailments and problems, and I'm looking for solutions to my problems when I really need to look no further than what I'm eating, which is very interesting. I think there's a definite link between diet and performance, both mental and physical performance. I think there's a direct link. And if you get really good at it, you can track what you eat and you can see the impact of food on you, your behaviors, your moods. And here, because we're organic species, it doesn't happen instantaneously. You can compile day upon day upon day, and after 4 or 5 days of being a certain way, it will have an impact. Now, many people have noted that in the United States, our culture has, we're not as healthy as we used to be. There's chronic obesity, chronic illnesses, other things going on. An increase in diabetes. So sedentary lifestyles, unhealthy eating habits due to processed foods are definitely have an impact. Now, we could try to figure out the causality. It could be that there's a higher availability of lower cost foods that are full of junk. It could be our lifestyles. It may be the fact that we moved off of the farm and now we live in cities and work at desks. So that could have a lot to do with it too. I'm sure there's a lot of causal factors, but one thing I thought of the other day, when I was younger, if I went over to a friend's house or anybody's house and I was there for dinner, the family would all be gathered around the dinner table, and before they ate dinner, they would say grace. And that may be because I was in a Midwestern community that was very Christian, that's possible. But I think that was more of a norm than not back in the early turn of last century. So maybe there's something to do with the fact that we're sitting down at a table, an appropriate place to eat. We're calm. We're very mindful about what we're eating, and we're eating a well-cooked, well-prepared meal based from natural foods. So I came up this week with some practical steps for improving my eating habits. Number one, I've committed to make home-prepared meals when I can over fast food and takeout, meaning that I'm going to make sure that I take time out of my day to go into the kitchen and prepare a meal from Whole Foods. And I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to sit down at the kitchen table. So I'm going to use healthy, fresh ingredients from whole food sources. I'm going to sit down at the table and I'm going to eat it. I'm not going to allow myself to eat my food at my desk or some other place in front of the TV. So eating the meals at the kitchen table without distraction, no doing work, will put me in a mindful mode. I'll be very mindful of what I'll be eating, and I'll be very mindful of the impact it's having on me. Oftentimes we just eat mindlessly. When we go to Taco Bell and we buy that double beef cheesy burrito and we're driving in the car shoving it in our face, we're being very mindless. And so you have this habit of just pouring food down your throat without being very mindful, but to sit down at a kitchen table and have it in front of you and then eat, moderately slowly and contemplate what you're doing, that's a mindful exercise. Now, I think the idea of praying before a meal shows gratitude, but it also shows a presence of mind. So take it for what it is. You could be a religious person or not. There is some definite credibility to the idea of being mindful before you start the process of consuming food. So I think there is a correlation between the removal of the typical home cooked meal around a table, one that you would feel okay about praying about, versus the fast food selections. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't feel like praying over my Pizza Hut pizza. But I would feel okay about praying over a meal that I prepared, right? So I think there's something to it. Just a thought. Thanks.